TurboGrafx-16 is my favorite console. Ys Book 1 and 2 is my favorite game on it. It's an action RPG and one I like quite a bit. This game was developed in Japan, so Ys has that anime gloss over everything, but the motif is mixed with what I'm assuming is inspiration from European folklore. So its concentration is tempered to some extent. I can't deny the quality of the art here, even with an anime aesthetic that has accelerated malignant cultural tumors in the soul of wussy white males the diaspora over. Graphics are great in the introduction and cutscenes, but mostly boilerplate when applied to in-game scenery. This is not arcane info or even an insightful observation, but I have to say it. Ys Book 1 and 2 has a soundtrack whose quality lacks an approximate rival. I'd have to run through all the video game soundtracks worth remembering to find original music nearly as good as what's offered here. The only thing resembling a fault I can find is its placement within certain parts of the game, but the juxtapositioning it creates only endears me even more to the compositions. I might be traversing this lengthy tower, but the music here sounds more like cruising for chicks on a 1989 Saturday night. I have not read up on 16-bit console sound technology, but the soundtrack has an addictive quality that Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis games I've played have not replicated. The punchy reverb you find here and there, that MIDI acoustic guitar that really sounds like a beautiful instrument, which doesn't exist, the melodies, it all accumulates into something special. Something terrible is going to happen in this country. I wish you told me this 100 years ago. The quest surrounds the discovery of different books detailing a powerful, prosperous nation that experienced a rapid demise. Relevant. The story is simple, but it's enough to keep you motivated in addition to accessible, easy-to-learn gameplay. The narrative gets additional texture and intrigue with some really good voice acting at important junctures. Ys seems to hold that high fantasy ground, the kind whose novels have dramatic covers with Fabio-looking guys posing as Vikings or warriors with axes and whatnot. I never understood the fantasy setting because I always overcome the challenge of finding something interesting about suburban nowheres. Intrigue and adventure is everywhere. I'd rather roam the aisles of my local grocery store. The excitement and savings are endless. It's like half the appeal of Tampico was the bottle, because I've not bought Tampico since they changed the bottles. It's Sicilian pizza. Bada bing, bada boom. Realist stereotype in the room. Ys features real-time combat, which is the best combat. Offense is executed by simply moving the directional pad in the direction of your foe until ADOL bumps into it. Repeat until the enemy is dead and watch your back and sides. I'm not 100% on this, but you seem to take damage when enemies tap your relative 3, 6, and 9 o'clocks. Silly and basic as it sounds, this stupid simplicity is what lends enjoyment to the amount of time you commit to grinding. Eventually, one button avails itself of its services in the second half of the game. You get a magic projectile attack. Even with this added complexity, fighting remains seamless, and semi-randomly generated enemies are infinite. I hate grinding in RPGs, but thanks to Ys' nearly non-existent combat system, I find myself grooving to the grind, baby, when we're grinding. I'm so excited, ooh, how I like it, I try but I... Simplistic control in combat creates space for some experimentation within the boundaries. Darm Tower is where the game discovers its peak in this respect. After some familiar dungeon crawling and questing, this location of the game amplifies what preceded it with boss battle after boss battle, many of which have borderline bullet hell attributes. It will catch you unawares, and don't give me any guff about the 4-directional control. You're grown up, you don't need to move in diagonals. You can handle it. There are virtually no limits on experience points, allowing you to accumulate them as far as your patience will allow. Most enemies will only yield 1 experience point per kill before long. Each level up provides diminishing returns on hit point maximum increases, so there is less satisfaction to upgrading your hero than previous moments yield. My complaints are few and typical of this breed of digital entertainment. Many of these sections are huge mazes in which losing track of your location is a guarantee. I like exploration in games, but navigating corridors and caves whose rooms and sections look nearly identical is frustrating. Unique items and side quests tucked away within labyrinth settings renders exploration a rewarding experience, which gives a minor sense of progression if the player cannot easily find their way back to the main quest trigger points. Ease is almost strictly linear with only one role to play and one way to increase protagonist experience. Your only choice in the matter is how many times you let enemies generate for grind fodder. Parts of the game where it's easy to get lost would have been less of a problem if branching paths existed, even if those paths never worked their way back into the main quest. I like linear games, but I need a clear path for progression. Ease is an easy game in a lot of ways. Deciphering how to navigate its maps to get where you need to be is its most difficult attribute. I'd rather a game have me rely on whatever skill I accumulate while playing it than try my patience for wandering and finding some door or hallway my fatigued eyes may have missed. Ease has its missteps, but nothing that ruined the whole thing for me. When you discover a book or trinket, you can rely on that thing having a purpose. This is a game design fundamental and something that isn't impressive or even thought upon by most, but I wanted to mention it. Get the simple, mundane things right, and you will do well. Everything needs good fundamentals. Ease has them. You will like it. Give it a try.
Oh, you are brave, but you are also a fool. You have no chance without the protection of the silver equipment. Knave, prepare to die!